The author of the book is John Boyne. He was born in Dublin on April 30, 1971, and after studying at Trinity College, he attended a creative writing course at the university. His debut as a writer came in 2000 with The Thief of Time, but his best-known novel is The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas. The latter was in first place in the New York Times bestseller list, has been translated into 32 languages, and has sold more than 5 million copies worldwide. The book deals with the theme of Holocaust. The story takes place through the eyes of a child, Bruno. He is 9 years old. He loves adventure and lives in Berlin with his father Louis, his mother Elsa, and his sister Gretel. We are in 1930, and his family has to move to another city because his father obtains a promotion for building a new concentration camp in a very short time. Leaving Berlin makes Bruno sad because he will have no one to play with in this new place. The family moves to a villa near the camp. Elsa doesn't share the Nazi ideals of her husband, while her daughter Gretel is a full supporter. One day, Bruno, bored by his new life in the new city, notes that in the distance, beyond a very high wire fence surmounted by a barbed wire, there is a building that resembles a farm. He sees some children and decides to go and ask his father for information, but Louise tells him that those people are not human beings and forbids him to leave home. However, Bruno decides to go secretly explore that place, and after walking for almost an hour, he sees a child in front of him in the enclosure. The child says his name is Shmuel, that he is also 9 years old and is Polish. He looks battered and wears a striped pajamas like everyone else in the camp. Bruno, worried about seeing him so thin, promises Shmuel that next time he will bring him something to eat, and asks him what everybody is doing there in that kind of farm. Shmuel tells him the sad truth. It is not a farm, and there are soldiers inside that force everyone to wear those striped pajamas, because all their belongings have been sized before entering the camp. Bruno cannot understand the reason of such cruelty, and what kind of role his father plays in that situation. Elsa also begins to have some suspicion that will be confirmed by a non-commissioned officer on the command of her husband. He tells her that those fields near her home are concentration camps, so Elsa decides to take her children away from that horrible place and communicates her decision to them. Bruno is caught by a strong sadness just now that he has a friend. He doesn't want to abandon him again, so he decides to go to see Shmuel to make his farewells, but once he arrives, he realizes that the child is very sad on that day because he can't find his father anymore. Bruno did not want to move and live in trouble, the only person who had made those months pleasant in the new house, so he decided to help him. He gets one of those pajamas from Shmuel, puts it on, and digs a hole in the ground that passes under the net. The two children begin to search Shmuel's father continuously in the whole camp, but in vain. Suddenly, the soldiers start to scream orders, and all of a sudden the two kids find themselves enveloped in a crowd of men heading toward the gas chambers. It takes a while to Bruno's parents to find out what happened to their child. The enormous success of the book led to the filming of the cinema adaptation produced by Miramax Films in 2008 and directed by Mark Herman. There are some differences in adaptation in the film. For example, in the book, there are some episodes that are not mentioned at all in the film. Another detail is the fact that Gretel in the book is much harder with Bruno than she is in the film, or even the fact that the father's name is different. In the film is changed to Ralph. Even the ending of the story is different. While in the book the author suggests to the reader what happened with a few touching words, in the film the family immediately understands what happened to their son because they find Bruno's personal belongings next to the fence. Moreover, when Bruno passes the other side of the fence, in the book he has shaved hair because he took lice, while in the film he is the only person in the field not to be shaved. The main theme of the work is obviously the Holocaust, but also prejudice, hatred, and violence toward innocent people. It also goes from the theme of Bruno's loneliness that arrives in a new place without friends, to that of curiosity and friendship beyond all diversity. The narrative style is typical of a fairy tale, where children are heroes and victims at the same time, living in a dramatic world. But it is not a fairy tale, it is reality, it is history. The writer has chosen the key of innocence to tell the dramas of the past and also to convey the message that certain mistakes of the past should never be repeated. Auschwitz, Dachau, Treblinka, Belsen are names that even today make shiver those who remember, and those people who don't know this name must learn to know them so as not to forget. For the Nazis, the people who came to the concentration camps were no longer human beings. They lost their dignity. In the camps, not only Jews were deported, but also Poles, Roma, Soviets, and individuals with physical and psychological handicaps, even Germans, who had to die not to undermine the purity of the Aryan race preached by Nazism. The children in particular were unproductive elements for the Nazis. They were considered too weak to work in the camps, and the statistics prove that at least 1.5 million were killed. They were destined to die during shootings, reprisals, or to be slaughtered for scientific research. Some of them, however, those with Nordic features, close to those of the Aryan race, were kidnapped and assigned to German families to be Germanized. The work has a great literary importance, as well as for the topics treated in a brilliant way, but also because it is a narrative for young people that entices even the laziest teenager into reading because it's written in a clear and engaging way. This film is not the first feature film about the Shoah, but it has something more than the others. It narrates a tragedy of humanity in a genuine way through the friendship of two children, with a style that realistically represents the horror of Nazism. I choose to analyze this book because it reminds me of my childhood. It was one of the first books I read, and I still remember the tears running down my face at the end of the reading. I think the author has found an effective key to talk about such a delicate subject. Even if it is a story about Holocaust set in 1930, it has no time for me. It is a sad but important page of contemporary history. With all the conflicts that exist in the world today, this story is still so current. It is an extremely human story, and it has touched me deeply. History tends to repeat itself, and I think it's important to remind always these events when the emotional contents are so real and authentic. Children have the ability to overcome cultural and identity differences, and adults should learn from them. People will get along well even if governments, institutions, and mass media do not direct them to hatred and mistrust. They are timeless ideas with universal relevance, so I think this story makes them accessible to everyone.